Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and checking your bank account. The balance reads $0. Your savings are gone. Your investments have disappeared. You don't own a business. There's no inheritance waiting for you. No wealthy family member ready to rescue you. And no safety net to fall back on. Everything you've spent years building has vanished overnight. Now let me ask you one question. Could you still become a millionaire? Most people would answer, absolutely not. They believe wealth starts with money. But what if I told you that's exactly why so many people never become wealthy? Money doesn't create millionaires. The habits, skills, and systems behind the money do. If money alone created wealth, lottery winners would stay rich forever. Yet studies have shown that many lottery winners end up broke within a few years because they gained money without learning how to build or manage it. On the other hand, countless entrepreneurs have lost everything during recessions or business failures, only to rebuild fortunes from scratch. The difference wasn't the money they had, it was the blueprint they followed. Take Howard Schultz, for example. He grew up in a public housing complex in Brooklyn where his family constantly struggled to pay bills. Years later, he transformed Starbucks from a small coffee retailer into one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Sarah Blakely spent years selling fax machines door-to-door before creating Spanx with just a few $1,000s in savings. Damon John started sewing hats in his mother's house and turned FUBU into a global fashion brand. None of these people were handed millions. They simply understood something that most people never do. Wealth is built in a sequence. Different industries, different backgrounds, different opportunities, but almost identical financial habits. Unfortunately, we're taught almost the opposite. School teaches us how to earn grades, then how to earn a paycheck. Banks encourage us to borrow money. Advertisements convince us to spend it. Social media constantly pushes the idea that one lucky investment, one viral business, or one cryptocurrency will completely change your life. Every day, someone claims they became rich overnight. What they rarely show are the years of learning, failing, improving, and staying disciplined before anyone noticed them. The truth is, lasting wealth is usually boring. It isn't built through one life-changing decision. It's built through thousands of small decisions that quietly compound over years. If you study self-made millionaires, you'll notice something fascinating. Some are doctors. Some own construction companies. Some invest in real estate. Others build software businesses, YouTube channels, restaurants, or consulting firms. Their careers couldn't be more different, but the path they followed is remarkably similar. First, they become valuable. Then they increase their income. Next, they invest consistently. After that, they buy assets that produce even more income. Finally, they allow time and compound growth to multiply everything they've built. That's the blueprint almost nobody talks about because it isn't flashy enough to sell as a shortcut. But it has quietly created more millionaires than almost any trend you've seen online. So, if I lost everything today, every dollar, every investment, every asset, and had to rebuild my entire financial life from zero, this is exactly where I would begin. And surprisingly, it wouldn't involve buying stocks, starting a company, or looking for the next big opportunity. It would begin with something far more valuable. Myself. The very first thing I would do isn't open a brokerage account. It isn't download a trading app. It isn't buy Bitcoin, chase the latest AI stock, or search YouTube for the next investment that will explode. In fact, I wouldn't invest a single dollar into the market. That probably sounds strange coming from a finance video, but here's why. When you have almost no money, your greatest asset isn't your bank account. It's your ability to earn. Imagine trying to fill a swimming pool using a tiny cup. You can keep pouring water into it all day, but progress will always be painfully slow. Now imagine replacing that cup with a fire hose. The pool fills dramatically faster. That's exactly how income works. Before you focus on growing money, you need to increase the speed at which money comes into your life. Let's look at two people. Alex and Ryan both graduate at 22 years old. They both have the same degree, the same laptop, and almost the same amount of money. Alex finds a job paying $45,000 a year and stays in that role for the next 5 years. Ryan spends those same 5 years learning sales, negotiation, digital marketing, AI tools, and communication. First, both of them struggle. But by the time they're 27, Ryan is earning $150,000 a year, while Alex has only received a few small raises. Neither of them won the lottery. Neither inherited money. The difference is simple. Ryan invested in increasing his value before trying to increase his investments. The market doesn't reward people based on how hard they work. It rewards people based on how valuable the problems they can solve are. Think about the businesses you use every day. Companies don't pay software engineers six-figure salaries because typing code is difficult. They pay them because the software they build can generate millions of dollars. Top salespeople don't earn huge commissions because talking is hard. They earn them because they help businesses make more money. Video editors, marketers, data analysts, AI specialists, consultants, electricians, and skilled tradespeople all have one thing in common. They solve problems that people are willing to pay for. The bigger the problem you can solve, the bigger your income potential becomes. That's why your first goal shouldn't be finding the perfect investment. It should be becoming someone the marketplace values more every single year. Warren Buffett once said that the best investment you can make is in yourself because nobody can tax it, steal it, or take it away from you. Markets can crash. Businesses can fail. Entire industries can disappear. But if you've developed valuable skills, you always have the ability to earn again. That's exactly why so many successful entrepreneurs were able to rebuild after losing everything. They didn't lose the most important asset they owned: their knowledge. Howard Schultz understood branding and leadership. Sarah Blakely understood sales and persistence. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he co-founded, yet he returned years later and built one of the most valuable companies in history because his greatest asset was never the company itself. It was his ability to create value. So, if I were starting from absolutely $0, my first investment would be books, courses, mentors, experience, and skills that increase my earning power. Because once your income starts growing, something far more dangerous begins to happen. Most people earn more and immediately spend more. That's where the next part of the blueprint begins, and it's the reason so many high-income earners never actually become wealthy. Once your income starts increasing, you'll face a challenge that almost nobody warns you about. Surprisingly, it's not taxes, inflation, or even bad investments. It's something much more ordinary: lifestyle inflation. This is the invisible trap that keeps millions of people working hard their entire lives without ever becoming wealthy. Here's how it happens. You get your first big promotion, and instead of investing the extra money, you upgrade your apartment. A few months later, you buy a nicer car because the monthly payment fits your new salary. Then come expensive vacations, designer clothes, the newest phone every year, and subscriptions you barely use. Before long, your income has doubled, but so have your expenses. From the outside, you look richer. On paper, you're earning more than ever. But in reality, your financial life hasn't changed at all because every extra dollar has been spent instead of invested. Imagine two friends, Emily and David. Both receive a raise that increases their income by $30,000 a year. Emily immediately upgrades her lifestyle. She leases a luxury SUV, moves into a more expensive apartment, starts dining out more often, and finances the latest gadgets. By the end of the year, almost every extra dollar is gone. David makes a different decision. He keeps living almost exactly the same way he did before the raise. Instead of increasing his spending, he automatically invests most of the additional income into low-cost index funds and uses a small portion to improve his skills even further. 5 years later, Emily still depends entirely on her paycheck. David now owns a growing investment portfolio that's quietly generating returns every single day, even while he sleeps. They earned the same income. The only difference was what happened after the paycheck arrived. This is why financial experts often say, it's not how much you make that determines your wealth, it's how much you keep. Some of the highest paid people in the world still live paycheck to paycheck because their spending rises every time their income rises. Meanwhile, many ordinary millionaires don't drive exotic cars or wear luxury watches. In fact, research from Thomas J. Stanley's The Millionaire Next Door found that many millionaires live surprisingly modest lifestyles. They buy reliable cars instead of flashy ones. They avoid unnecessary debt. They focus on building assets instead of appearances. Their neighbors often have no idea they're wealthy because they spend their money on investments, not on impressing strangers. One habit separates people who stay financially stuck from those who quietly build wealth. They pay themselves first. Before paying for entertainment, shopping, or unnecessary upgrades, they automatically move a percentage of every paycheck into investments. They treat investing like a mandatory bill rather than something they'll do if there's money left over. Because the truth is, there usually isn't. Expenses naturally expand to fill whatever income you earn. Unless you deliberately create a gap between what you earn and what you spend, your wealth will never have room to grow. That gap is where your future is built. Every dollar you don't spend becomes an employee working for you instead of disappearing forever. At first, the progress feels slow. But over time, something incredible begins to happen. Your money starts earning money. And eventually, your investments begin working harder than you do. That's the moment the blueprint enters its most powerful stage, the power of compound growth. Now comes the step that most people think should have come first, investing. But here's the truth. Investing doesn't make people rich overnight. It makes patient people wealthy over time. Social media has convinced us that the stock market is a place where fortunes are made in days. In reality, the greatest investors in history became wealthy because they stayed invested for decades, not because they constantly chased the next big opportunity. Warren Buffett bought his first stock as a child, but more than 99% of his net worth was accumulated after the age of 50. Not because he suddenly became smarter, but because he gave compound growth enough time to work. That's the secret most people underestimate. Time is often more powerful than the amount you invest. Imagine two investors. Sarah starts investing $1,000 every month at the age of 25. Mike waits until he's 35 because he wants to earn more money first. They both invest the same monthly amount and earn the same average long-term return. Even though Sarah only started 10 years earlier, by retirement she could end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars more than Mike. Those extra years allowed her investments to earn returns, and then those returns earned even more returns. That's compound growth. It's like planting a tree. During the first few years, it barely seems to grow. But once the roots are deep, the growth becomes faster and more powerful every single year. Wealth works exactly the same way. But investing alone isn't enough. The real goal is to own assets, things that continue producing value long after you've paid for them. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket instead of taking money out. That could be diversified investments like index funds, a profitable business, rental property, royalties from a book or course, or even a YouTube channel that continues earning advertising revenue years after a video is uploaded. Compare that to buying a luxury car. The moment you drive it off the lot, it begins losing value. Insurance, maintenance, fuel, and repairs continue costing you money. One purchase quietly drains your finances. The other quietly builds them. Think about someone like Mr. Beast. Years ago, he wasn't making millions. Instead of spending every dollar he earned, he repeatedly reinvested into making better videos. Each successful video brought in more views, more subscribers, and more revenue, which he then reinvested again. Over time, his content became an asset that generated income while he continued creating even bigger projects. The same principle applies whether you're investing in businesses, real estate, or the stock market. Wealthy people don't just work for money, they gradually build systems that allow money to work for them. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. There comes a point where the returns from your investments can exceed what you earn from your job. Imagine waking up and realizing your portfolio earned more this month than your salary. That doesn't happen because of one lucky investment. It happens because you consistently invested, bought productive assets, and gave them enough time to grow. But reaching that stage creates a new challenge. Building wealth is difficult. Keeping it is even harder. And that's exactly where many people lose everything they've spent years creating. By this point, you've built valuable skills, increased your income, avoided lifestyle inflation, and started investing in assets that grow over time. But here's something that surprises a lot of people. Making your first million is hard, but keeping it can be even harder. History is filled with people who earned fortunes only to lose everything because they believed wealth, once built, would take care of itself. Professional athletes have signed contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars and still ended up bankrupt. Lottery winners have won life-changing jackpots only to find themselves back where they started just a few years later. The problem wasn't that they didn't know how to make money. The problem was that they never learned how to protect it. One of the biggest threats to wealth isn't a market crash. It's bad financial decisions made during good times. When income is high, it's easy to believe it will stay that way forever. People begin taking unnecessary risks, borrowing heavily, investing in things they don't understand, or trying to get rich even faster. They forget that wealth is usually destroyed much more quickly than it's created. Warren Buffett has two famous rules about investing. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Of course, every investor experiences temporary losses, but Buffett's message is about protecting your capital and avoiding reckless decisions that can permanently set you back. Imagine two investors who each build a portfolio worth $1 million. The first constantly chases the newest trend, speculative stocks, risky startups, and investments they barely understand. The second stays patient, remains diversified, keeps investing consistently, and ignores the daily noise of the market. 10 years later, the second investor often ends up far ahead, not because they earned extraordinary returns, but because they avoided extraordinary mistakes. Building wealth isn't just about finding winners. It's also about avoiding the decisions that quietly destroy years of progress. There's another lesson almost every self-made millionaire eventually learns. Freedom is the real goal, not the money itself. Money is simply a tool. Its greatest purpose isn't buying expensive cars or impressing strangers online. It's buying choices. The choice to spend more time with your family. The choice to travel when you want. The choice to leave a job you hate. The choice to support causes you care about. The choice to wake up each morning because you want to work, not because you have to. That's what financial freedom really means. So, if I had to start over from $0 today, this is the exact blueprint I would follow. First, I would invest in myself until my skills became impossible to ignore. Then I would focus on increasing my income without increasing my lifestyle. Next, I would consistently invest in productive assets that generate value for years to come. I would let compound growth do what it has done for generations, and I would protect everything I built by staying disciplined when others chased shortcuts. It sounds simple because it is, but simple doesn't mean easy. The reason this blueprint works is that most people aren't willing to follow it long enough. The biggest secret about becoming a millionaire is that there isn't one. There is no hidden formula, no magical investment, and no overnight success waiting around the corner. There are only small, intelligent decisions repeated over and over again until they become extraordinary results. Every wealthy person started somewhere. Every investment portfolio began with a first contribution. The biggest secret about becoming a millionaire is that there isn't one. There is no hidden formula, no magical investment, and no overnight success waiting around the corner. There are only small, intelligent decisions repeated over and over again until they become extraordinary results.